something. You've got to leave us, don't you?
I do.
Kelly, thank you very much. I'm hoping you're staying, Mickey, for a couple more minutes, because I want to welcome in Michael Ledden, who is the Chief Executive of PsyCare Ireland, which offers welfare and harm reduction at specifically music festivals. So very useful to us, Michael. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, and I'm so sorry it's on such a sad occasion. Sending condolences to the families.
Awful, and you're right to underscore that. You know, we're having a conversation, hopefully, that's positive about how best to avoid these tragedies again. But for the families going through this right now, they're just immersed, I'm sure, in the grief of all of that. Want to protect their privacy and their grief. It's entirely right that we do that. But we do want to learn from this too, Michael. Every tragedy gives you the opportunity, doesn't it, to learn something?
I think it does, and I think it really, again, it underscores the importance of not only just harm reduction, but also perhaps even having welfare teams at events like our own charity in Ireland. In the last 3 years, we've helped almost 1,000 people at events where before that there wasn't really such a strong culture of welfare in the Republic. And welfare very much sits in with the drugs testing, with the outreach, connecting with people in a non-judgmental way to have those conversations around, well, what are you taking? Did you know that this doesn't go with that? Or there's a bad mix here possible? Or if you're going, don't drink. We're not encouraging people to take drugs. But when they're frankly going to be doing it already, it's really important to get the messaging right, to engage young people, especially the kind of school leavers and the ones just coming first into nightlife, because we see that those are the folks that they're taking things like sweets and they don't really realise the dosages or the danger they're putting themselves at.
What do you do at these kind of music festivals? Just explain in general terms, if you would, what you offer.
Yeah, we provide psychological support. So we'd have 200 trained volunteers. We'd set up tents. We work alongside the medics. Anyone who has a medical issue goes there, but anyone who's psychologically distressed for any reason, or they could be intoxicated, they can come into our welfare tent and keep an eye. We keep an eye. Our volunteers are trained to refer anything to medics that looks like, it could be someone mentioned a temperature spike, very common with MDMA, overheating, somebody needs to sleep it off, but they're at risk of vomiting. Our teams are there to support them emotionally, but then also just to physically make sure they're safe. And we're out in the crowd doing outreach, engaging people, being extra eyes and ears.
And is it mostly MDMA at the kind of dance festival events that we're talking about?
A lot of MDMA, a lot of ketamine as well, which can put people at risk of kind of a temporary unconsciousness, which leads to physical risks, also vomiting in the sleep and things like that, especially if they've mixed it with alcohol. And then the main one that we're particularly concerned about, has been mentioned before, is the strength of the MDMA. HSC's drug testing regime, which has been mentioned, has shown year on year a steady rise in the strength of particularly MDMA pills. Which again could be adulterated with God knows what, but they're also showing that the pills are getting stronger and stronger. So the advice very much to anyone heading out in Belfast or heading to the Electric Picnic this weekend, if you are going to use it all, do try to break those tablets up into quarters. Don't redose for at least 90 minutes, if not 2 hours, because you don't know when something might kick in. It might have a delayed effect. To drink water, but not too much. And if you or any of your friends are feeling unwell or starting to turn, you won't be in trouble. Please go speak to a medic, because these tragedies can be avoidable with early intervention.
What about the mix of these sort of MDMA substances and alcohol?
Yeah, very much. We do see a little bit of that. We think some young people maybe are drinking a little bit less. Maybe it's the price of drink as well. Yeah. We see a lot of polydrug use, though. We see a lot of people might be drinking and taking cocaine, which is kind of pulling you in both directions. It can be quite cardiotoxic. And then topping up with a little bit of MDMA for dancing, might be ketamine or even benzos then at the end of a night. So it's over 2-3 days with little sleep. It's the strain, all of that is putting on your body, including alcohol, can have really bad psychological and physical health effects. So, I think, again, the advice would just be to really try and slow down, go slow with what you're using. If at all possible, stick with your friends. Don't get separated on your own, and don't leave anybody asleep on their back on their own, because there's a huge risk.
Yeah, pay very close attention to the group you came with, the individuals around you. We do have this statement here. I'll get your thoughts on this statement from the PSNI. It's just come through to us. And this is ahead of the Belfast Vital 2025, which is coming up. And they're reminding concert goers to be respectful, safe, mindful of the consequences of illegal behaviour. They also say that they're working in partnership with the event organisers and other agencies around the planning of the event. And those in attendance will see our officers on the ground working hard to ensure their safety. Some practical advice from the cops: make arrangements for your travel to and from the event in advance, etc. All good advice. But when it comes to drugs, this is what it says. I am aware, says Superintendent Hagan, I'm aware of recent concern, and I want to reassure the community that we as a police service are committed to tackling the illegal supply and use of illicit drugs. Anyone tempted to become involved in the supply or use of these items should be under no illusion. We will seek to identify them, arrest them, and place them before the courts. So that's the police statement. Now, in one sense, you might say, what else do you expect the police to say, right, Michael? Drugs are illegal to supply, illegal to possess, illegal to use. But there is another possible take on this, and I wonder where you go with this, which is if you are at one of these events and you see the police there and you have a friend who is in trouble because of drug use, would you be more or less likely to go to the police and ask for help when you've heard that statement?
I mean, hearing that, as you say, it is something that the police maybe they need to say by the letter of the law. That is the case.
I get it. Yeah.
There is, though, I would say, certainly from a medical point of view, any medic that we've ever worked with would say they're not police officers. They're there to save lives. So in some instances, police have even brought people into us knowing well that they probably have more than alcohol on board, and they've put the welfare of the person before, perhaps trying to arrest someone who's half unconscious or vulnerable.
Yeah.
While I hear that, certainly in the wording of that letter, I would say, particularly just again for the folks at any of the events this weekend, even a little tiny bit of trouble is not worth losing your life or your friend's life over.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that trouble is realistically the risks are not that grave, especially with medics, and especially with welfare teams at these events. We've a very non-judgmental
they're not there
approach.
to do criminal enforcement. They're there to do welfare. And Mickey, just as a counsellor, there's an enforcement model. There's a welfare model, right? And we know that legally, but we also know it in terms of the police. And different police services take different approaches and put different weights on the welfare bit and the enforcement bit when it comes to drugs. How do you think we're doing?
Well, I think that's a party line coming from the police service. Of course, they have to say that. My experience of dealing with officers, and obviously a lot of the sort of festivals take place inside Belfast, where I represent, is that they fully understand that there is that balance to be had. So if there is someone standing outside on the road, on Boucher Road, dealing drugs, yes, of course, they're going to
intervene. Of course they are.
If there is someone who is taken unwell, or someone approaches them to say that their friend is taken unwell, they are going to bring them to the medic.
And that will be their focus.
Yeah.
Thank you. Really appreciate it. Councillor Mickey Murray gave a lot of his time here to us today to help us think this through. Thanks also to Michael Ledden from PsyCare Ireland. He's their Chief Executive. And to Professor Anne Campbell.